Mm-mm.
Hello, we are Mike and Tara, and this is our channel, Ramblin' Home.
And we are back again with another video. Today's topic is the process we went through to downsize and prep our house for sale and move into our RV full-time.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the questions that we've gotten since we started this adventure revolve around this topic. We have been especially asked how difficult it was to get rid of all of our stuff and to sell our house.
So I actually bought the house before Tara and I met. So I lived there a grand total of 11 years. And I kind of felt like the house started falling apart not too long after I purchased it. One of my favorite movies is called The Money Pit. And it really rang true with this house and looked great when I walked through it, past inspection, but there's always underlying things that you don't know. So, you know, occasionally some door handle would fall off in my hand, you know, little things like that. And those are going to happen with home ownership. Obviously, curb appeal is important. I decided to remove that mulch bed and just go back to grass. I pulled out some of the shrubs that took a lot of upkeep. We took out a ton of greenery from this mulch bed. And really glad we did because it changed the whole exterior of the house. Trimmed all this back, cleaned the gutters, pressure wash the house.
We have very weak trees.
Yeah, that was an absolute disaster and resulted in some really nasty poison ivy. I'd be perfectly happy not ever doing that type of landscaping again.
Also, something that happened before Tara moved in 2011, Knoxville had record-breaking hailstorms. I had a window that literally filled up like a fish tank. I watched it fill up. Outside, a friend of mine was holding a trash can lid over my head, and I'm bailing water as fast as I can go, but unfortunately, there was nothing I could do.
I missed that.
Yeah, so insurance covered the roof, covered the siding. There was damage to the porch, the screen, and some of the surrounding areas. When that window broke and water came in, they considered it flood damage. It didn't have flood insurance. The adjuster actually told me that if somehow a tree had busted through the window and rain had come in sideways, that still would have been covered by the hail damage. But because the rain actually hit the ground and then came into the home, it was considered flood. I didn't have a whole lot of cash on hand to pay to get all that stuff fixed. So it was a long process. A lot of it I did myself, but the whole downstairs carpet was ruined, and I had called in a flood damage cleanup company who proceeded to show up and cut my drywall about a foot off the ground all the way around the entire basement of this house. So you're talking about a bedroom, a living room, a bathroom, and part of a hallway. And I was left with bare studs. No carpet, bare concrete floor, and nothing but an empty checkbook in my hands. So, you know, thank God it happened long before Tara and I met, so she didn't have to experience any of that. But the point is when she did move into the house, we were still under construction downstairs. So she did get to be part of the remodel.
One of my favorite projects was completing the downstairs man cave as a surprise for Mike. My mom came to town and we got everything set back up to be a functioning, usable space again.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you did. Not only was it a great surprise, but we had a lot of really great times sitting in front of that fireplace. When Tara actually moved in, the living room was empty all except for 2 lounge chairs. I'd had a huge sectional downstairs, but unfortunately it was lost in the flood. The couch you see here is her couch, which we eventually sold. Again, something you'll notice is minimalistic staging. You want a house to look like it's lived in, but you also definitely don't want it to be cluttered when you are showing it to the public.
My first time laying groutable luxury vinyl tile.
I was a little leery about this sky blue bathroom, but it actually turned out to look pretty nice.
So a couple of the rooms were painted long before we knew we were going to be moving, or I would have chosen more neutral colors, but since they had been pretty recently done, we didn't want to repaint the entire house. And ultimately, the family who purchased the house appreciated it and enjoyed it very much. The kitchen was a long process. Baby blue grid pattern countertops.
Yeah, the kitchen was a huge draw when I purchased the house. Now, the cabinets is something we talked about for quite a while. So I eventually caved, and I'm glad I did because it really looked great. He did a great job. It just took twice as long as we expected. He actually took all the cabinet doors and hardware off and took them home with him, but then it just seemed forever for him to come back and get the cabinet doors put back on. Tara, of course, did a great job with the painting.
A good friend of mine came over and helped me paint the entire kitchen and ceiling in one day.
All the appliances were purchased at the same time with the exception of the dishwasher. So it took a couple of weeks to get the dishwasher sent to me and get everything scheduled.
How long will the job take? 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Really?
How long will it take to put this place together?
2 weeks.
And by the end of this process, I was Looney Tunes. I was just completely over it and honestly was about to commit myself. So, quick recap on phase 1. When you're prepping a house to sell, obviously curb appeal is important. Make sure your landscaping, exterior paint, roof, gutters, all those are in tip-top shape. Interior, fresh coat of paint, pull back the window coverings, make sure it's bright and looking as new and clean as possible. Also minimize whatever you can and just think about it from the eyes of a buyer. And that's phase 1. So with phase 1 complete, it was a long road, but we got through it. Lots of gray.
Survived.
Yes, barely. But that leads us to phase 2, which is where Tara comes in.
Yep. Phase 2 was pretty much the organization and minimizing part of our journey.
Definitely not me.
Definitely not his skill set. I did get a lot of help from online resources, some other YouTube videos, and so hopefully I can help you guys with some of the questions you have about that as well. So we obviously knew that we weren't going to have any room in the motor coach for any of our larger furniture items. So we knew we had to get rid of most of those ultimately. But before we could just get rid of everything, I had to decide which items I was going to use to stage the house for real estate photography as well as showings on the property. So in the very beginning of this process, someone recommended the Kumari Method to me, and I began reading and doing research and watching YouTube videos of how other people had used this method in their own downsizing. And while I didn't follow every aspect of the method to a T,
he also asks that for every item you discard that had meaning to you, you thank it for its service.
Who'd you talking about?
You know, we've been together a long time now. I just wanted to thank you.
I love lamp. I love lamp.
there were parts that were really beneficial for me. So, for example, she suggests going through things by category. Getting rid of these things started to become so freeing.
So yeah, phase 2 was a little more personal. So one of the toughest things for me with the purge was figuring out what to do with Wiley. Wiley is a 1983 CJ8, also known as a scrambler. I wasn't ready to get rid of him. My father-in-law was willing to make some room in his garage, so he will live again.
One of the things that I just started doing was, as I cleared out a drawer, I would put little notes to remind myself of why I was doing this. We did 2 full Saturdays of yard sales once we got to that point, and thank goodness my mom was available to come help because it was crazy. Our entire driveway was full of stuff. There was stuff lined up the driveways, and our entire downstairs, including a 2-car garage, were absolutely filled to the brim.
I had probably a dozen phone chargers, 500 or 600 feet of speaker wire. I literally could supply a small electronics store with all the things that I had.
After the yard sales, we actually called a local charity who came and picked up all of the remaining items that we were not going to be keeping. Then it was time to move the few remaining items that were not going to be able to fit on the rig into a small storage unit.
So you can see in this storage unit, you know, we do have some sentimental things, annuals, trophies, things from our childhood. The one thing that I honestly had trouble getting rid of was books. I am a hoarder when it comes to books. What I would suggest is put all of your stuff together in one pile or scoot it together in the corner of your garage. They are priced according to size. So build to the ceiling, measure before you go, and pick out the storage unit you need.
So the last thing I did was do a really thorough deep clean to make sure we were leaving the house in great shape for the new owners. It was really hard to leave, especially letting the dogs enjoy their freedom in the backyard one last time. But ultimately, there was no turning back.
I was looking forward to the next step of the journey. So more excited than anything. Goodbye, home.
We hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful in answering some of the questions that you have, whether or not you're looking to go full-time in your RV, or you're just thinking about downsizing, or even just starting to live a more minimalistic lifestyle.
Yeah, and if for some reason we didn't answer a question that you may have had, please leave it in the comments below and we will get back to you. Also, please like the video if you did like the video. Subscribe to our channel. And make sure you click the bell so you get informed when we put out our next video. And we will see you soon. Press the button. Press the button. Blah, 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 blah. Testing.
Larry! See you later, homies! We're way not cool enough to do that. And so hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions for you today. Okay.
That is on camera. So another thing that happened.
The flood. Noah and the Ark. That was our basement.
Yeah.
Peace out.